Have you ever noticed something strange? The quietest person in the room somehow knows everything that's going on. They barely speak, but somehow they notice who faked a smile, who felt left out, and who wasn't telling the whole truth. So here's the question. Are quiet people simply shy, or is something much deeper happening inside their minds? Because silence isn't always empty. Sometimes it's where the loudest thoughts live. We've been taught that confident people are the ones who speak the most. That if someone doesn't join every conversation, something must be wrong. They're awkward, they're boring, they're unfriendly. But our brains love shortcuts, and silence is one of the easiest things to misunderstand. Think about the last time you met someone who didn't say much. How long did it take before your mind started filling in the blanks? They don't like me. They must be nervous. They think they're better than everyone. Funny thing is, most of the time, none of those stories are true. Our brains hate missing information. So when someone stays quiet, we invent a story to explain it. Not because it's accurate, because uncertainty makes us uncomfortable. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Many people who don't talk much aren't struggling to think of something to say. They're deciding whether it's worth saying at all. Before speaking, their mind quietly runs through a checklist. Will this add something? Will I regret saying this? Did anyone actually ask? Does this conversation even matter? While someone else has already said 5 random things, they're still choosing their first sentence. It doesn't mean they're slow. It means their filter is working overtime. Imagine 2 phones. One sends every notification the second it appears. The other carefully filters out everything unnecessary. Which one feels calmer? That's often how quiet minds work. But there's another reason many people become quiet, and it usually starts much earlier than anyone realizes. Think about a child who gets interrupted every time they try to speak, or laughed at for asking questions, or told, "You're too sensitive. Stop talking. No one cares." Little by little, their brain learns something dangerous. Talking isn't safe. So instead of expressing themselves, they begin editing themselves. Years later, people call them the quiet one, without realizing silence became a survival strategy. Here's something people rarely notice. Quiet people often become incredible observers. When you're not busy planning what to say next, your attention goes somewhere else. You notice tiny changes in people's voices. You remember details everyone forgot. You catch uncomfortable pauses. You recognize fake laughter. It's almost like standing outside a noisy crowd. When you're not adding to the noise, you hear everything. Ever wonder why some quiet people give surprisingly accurate advice? It's because they've been collecting information long before anyone asked for their opinion. But observing has a downside too. The more you notice, the harder it becomes to ignore things. A careless comment, a forced smile, someone pretending they're okay. Your brain keeps recording, sometimes even when you wish it wouldn't. And that leads to something many quiet people secretly struggle with: overthinking. Not because they enjoy it, because their mind rarely stops processing. A conversation ends, but inside their head, it keeps going. Why did they say it like that? Did I sound rude? I should have answered differently. Meanwhile, everyone else has already forgotten the conversation happened. Here's the twist. People often mistake quietness for confidence or insecurity, when in reality, it can be either. Some people stay quiet because they're nervous. Others stay quiet because they're comfortable. One fears being judged, the other simply doesn't need constant attention. From the outside, they look exactly the same, which is why judging silence is almost impossible. Then there's something even stranger. The less someone talks, the more people pay attention when they finally do. Think about that person at work or in school who almost never speaks. Then, one day, they say a single sentence. The whole room listens. Why? Because rarity creates value. When words are never wasted, people assume they matter. Silence can quietly build credibility, but only when it's genuine, not forced, not fake. There's another misunderstanding we make. We assume quiet people don't enjoy being around others. Actually, many of them love deep conversations. They just struggle with shallow ones. Ask them how the weather is, you'll probably get a short answer. Ask them what keeps people awake at night, and suddenly, an hour disappears. Their energy isn't limited. Their interest is. And maybe that's something we all understand. We've all sat through conversations where we smiled, nodded, pretended to care, while counting the seconds until they ended. Quiet people just reach that point much faster. But here's something they rarely tell anyone. Being quiet can feel lonely. People stop asking for their opinions, friends assume they're fine, family members speak over them. Eventually, they start feeling invisible, not because they have nothing to say, because nobody waits long enough to hear it. Sometimes, silence isn't a choice anymore. It's a habit that became an identity. The scary part? The longer people see you as the quiet one, the harder it becomes to break that image. You speak once, everyone jokes about it. Oh wow, you actually talk. They laugh, you smile. But inside, part of you decides staying quiet was easier. Here's something worth remembering. Not every quiet person is hiding pain. Not every quiet person is secretly wise. Not every quiet person wants to be left alone. People are more complicated than that. Some are thinking, some are healing, some are listening, some are exhausted, and some have learned that speaking less protects their peace. In a world where everyone is racing to be heard, there is something quietly powerful about someone who chooses their words carefully. Maybe real confidence isn't proving you have something to say. Maybe it's being comfortable enough to stay silent until you truly do. So the next time someone doesn't talk much, don't rush to explain their silence. You might be standing in front of someone who's noticing everything, feeling more than they show, and carrying entire conversations inside their mind that the rest of the world will never hear. Because sometimes, the quietest person in the room isn't the one with the least to say. They're simply the one who understands that not every thought needs a voice, but the right words, spoken at the right moment, can say more than 1,000 conversations ever could.